We know that Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov, Mehem Shel Aviseinu, the Gemara says in Yuma, Loi Parsha Yeshiva Mehem. They never stopped learning. They always had yeshivas. Kol ha'avos lamdu tamid b'yeshiva. All the avos, Aktoishim, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they learned in yeshiva. Val Yaakov Avinu, Isa Shalamad, Ashlei Hoyloi Panai Lishka V'lishayin. Yaakov Avinu, he learned until he didn't even have time to sleep. For 14 years, he didn't sleep. I just read the famous sefer over here, the Mechitzasam, in their shadow from Reb Shlomo Lawrence, and he brings down from the Chazon Ish, Ki Yadua, this famous story that the Chazon Ish, they heard a thump and they came running in, and he was on the floor next to the bed. And what happened? He said he always learned until his mamash last koyach, and then he fell into bed. And here he miscalculated. So he missed the bed. I mean, we can't even understand. It's mind-boggling what that even means, right? So, what did they learn? There was no Shita Mekubetzes, there was no Reb Chaim Brisker, there was no stencils, there was no Lamdish stuff to learn, there was no Taisus, there was no Rashi, there was no Gemara, there was no Mishnah. So what in the world did they learn? V'yesh Leimar, he says, She'ikar limudam koidem shenitna ha'Torah. The main thing that they learned before the Torah was given was be'inyanim midos. They learned midos. It sounds like, to us, we think like, ooh, marvelous midos machine, Uncle Moishi, 613 Torah Avenue, midos. It sounds very childish. He says it seems that I would say that the main thing that they learned, and they were busy learning all the time. And like he said, Yaakov Avinu didn't even have time to sleep. What was the topic? Midos. The Avos began to fix the world spiritually. Until the Avos, there was Sayav Avayun, Chayshech, all of a sudden Avraham Avinu recognizes Hashem. And they started to be misakein, fixing the world through making it into a culturally acceptable world, a moral, ethical world. And they started with Midas. Avram tikkun Midas HaChesed. Avram was Masakein, he established and he fixed and he made up for the damage that was done in Midas HaChesed. Generosity. We have this to this day. Even Freie Yidden are known to be the most generous. It's in our DNA. Yitzchak Midas HaGvura. Yitzchak gave us the midah of Gvura, of overpowering. We've seen Jews in all situations that are able to rise above challenges, to build up after persecution. All of that strength, the inner strength, comes from Yitzchak. Yaakov Midas Teferes. Yaakov is the midah of Teferes, of glory, and it's a mixture of both, of Torah and Avodah, as we know. V'rak la'achar olam atikun. After the Olam started having a tikkun, the Hainu tikkun amidis, which means that it was established to have midos, only then was it possible for Hashem to give the Torah. Only after that you're a human being could there be Torah. Derech Eretz, Kadma l'Torah means that until you are somebody who is established, settled, strong in your midas, there's no possibility to be kind of Torah. You can learn Torah and have the knowledge of Torah like you learn math, but you can't be a ben Torah. You can't be a gadol. You see so many people, they're brilliant, they know Shas, they know everything, they're not gedolim. Gedolim are because first they work on their midas. Now, it's brought down, and the Nesivas Shalom brings down in a different place. He asks, how come the Torah doesn't talk about midas? The Torah tells you it's Lashon Torah is Hayra'ah, it's showing you a guide how to live your life, and you're telling me midas is so important. Why doesn't the Torah talk about midas? Why in the Aseres HaDibros doesn't it say the first one, instead of all of those, it should say, be nice to people, be generous to people, give meiser, open the door for the elderly, stand up and respect, and all the midos that we have. Says the Nesivas Shalom in Chelik Aleph in the Hakdama, the Torah is given to a Jew to a Yehudi, to someone who's not just born a Jew, but he's ready to accept the Torah. He's worked on himself. The Torah is given to a Yid who behaves like a Yid, and that's Midas. The Torah is an instruction manual how somebody with good Midas has to behave. I'll give you an example. I just thought of it now. A person comes to train in the army, and they go to training, basic training. Basic training, they have to start doing push-ups and sit-ups and all kinds of stuff to become physically in shape, emotionally in shape, psychologically sharp. That's basic training. Then they come to the training, and they give them a training manual. These are the rules. So why doesn't it say in the training manual and the rules, why doesn't it say do 50 push-ups, be physically fit? Because it's only given to somebody who finishes basic training. It's only given to somebody who's physically fit. The Army manual, the Air Force manual, the Navy SEALs manual is not for everybody. It's just for somebody who is fit to receive instruction. Says the Nesivas Shalom and Chelik Aleph and Akdama, the Torah is given to a Yid who behaves like a Yid. He explains over there that there's something called a Yehudi b'Tailada, a person who's born a Jew. So he has the DNA of a Jew. He's a Yid. He's a Yehudi b'Tailada. And then there's somebody, Yehudi b'Hanhaga, that person who's born a Jew has to upgrade himself to behave like a Jew. What does behaving like a Jew mean? Before Torah and mitzvahs, you're a gentleman. You're v'yisimli segula mikala amim. Something special about you. You're a mamleches kohanim v'goy kodesh. Doesn't say what to do to be a mamleches kohanim v'goy kodesh. It's not a mitzvah. That's what you are. The royal family, not now, but they used to be royal, they had a lot of rules, but they were dignified people. They didn't have to tell them that. You're royalty. You have dignity. People watch the way you behave. You're expected to behave in a higher level. And now I'll give you the rule book that, when Prince whatever walks in, you stand up, you curtsy. Those are the details. But who are you? Who defines you? Yehudi b'Hanhaga? Royalty. So he says, unbelievable. Ube'elu anyanim hayalimut shel Avos hakdoshim shelamdu inyanei midos. That's what they learned. They were busy learning. They were in yeshiva a whole day and a whole night. Morning seder, second seder, musa seder, halacha seder. Everything, though, was midos. Avram Avinu gave a shiur iyun. First, they learned 2-3 hours themselves about midas, and then he went ahead and gave a shiur iyun in midas. Now, think about it for a second. If midos is Uncle Moshe and marvelous midos machines, being a nice person, how long do you need to learn midos? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? The answer is that we're not really learning midas properly. Midas defines who we are to behave in a completely different way. That's not something you just learn about. Yeah, open the door for old people. When you're on the bus and there's an elderly person, give them your seat. That's what you do. It's much deeper than that. It's so deep that if we learned it in yeshiva for 8 years of Masifta and Beis Medrash, morning seder with a shiur from the Rosh Yeshiva, second seder, night seder, that's all the starim in the yeshiva. That's all there was in the yeshiva of Avram Avinu. Was chesed. And Avram Avinu was not one of us. He was talking about, if we try to imagine the biggest tzaddik, try to imagine Moshe Rabbeinu, Avram Avinu. And he was busy all day being mechadesh chedushei Torah in midas. And if we don't do that, and we have just a shallow, shitchiistic, superficial concept of midas, and we don't work on ourselves, we're not 100% Jew to accept the Torah. Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov were 100% Jew in midas. Then Kabbalah Soteric can come on Klal Yisrael. Then you can learn what to do technically. But without midas, the Torah is not only not going to raise you up, but samamavas. It's dangerous. And that's why we see some people that are so smart in their knowledge of Torah, and they are disgusting, mushchasim, twisted, messed up, corrupt, disgusting individuals, and they'll do it, if they're very smart, in the name of Torah. They'll find a way to hate other people, put down other people, knock other people, do the opposite of midas in the name of Torah. Because they didn't work on their midas to become amazing people. There's a story I just thought of right now. I have it written down in my notes with my thousands of stories. I would have prepared, but I just thought of it right now. And so I have the Maramakim, but not here. There was somebody who had a chutzpah, but I guess he had a quest. He was a big Rosh Hashiva, and he asked Rav Steinman, who was over 90 years old. I don't know how he had the guts to ask him. He said, I don't understand. I'm a better orator than the Rosh Hashiva. I work on my shiur much better. I work on it a lot, and how come that everybody goes to Rav Steinman, to you, to the Rosh Hashiva for your shiurim, and my shiurim are not successful? My Musar Seder, or whatever it was, Hashkafa Seder, whatever it was. How come it's not so successful? Rav Steinman told him, because I'm working on my shiur. I've been working on myself for 90 years. You could have two people give the same shiur. One of them is the Chazon Ish. One of them is Rav Steinman. One of them is a Der Hoibene Oiska Arbeit, a person who worked on himself, elevated, a person who really worked on himself. And it's going to be a different shiur than a guy who's a Baal Taiva and a Baal Gaiva. A lot of times people can learn so much, because this is like, they didn't become a lawyer. They're very, very smart. They went into Torah, into the field of Torah. But they're a Baal Gaiva. And as we know, Hashem says, Einan nivuhu yicholim ladur. Hashem, the Shekhinah is not in him. Even though he can slug you up and he can prove to you and he can throw taisvis around and everything, he's a Baal Gaiva. There's a famous story I just thought of now also. I don't have my Maramakim here, but it'll be in the book. That there was, I think it was Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld or maybe, I don't remember which one, something like that. And he had a choice to go when he was traveling to stay by two people. And one of them was a Baal Avera, and the other one was a big Talmud Chacham. And he chose to go to the Baal Avera. And afterwards, his Talmidim asked him, please, Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, please explain to us, why did you go to him when you could have stayed by that? He's not just a Ben Torah, but he's frum and rich, Torah Gedula b'makim echad. He's a wonderful person. So he said, I don't know how he said it, but he said that he is very, very, very big, but he's also a Baal Gaiva. And by Gaiva, it says, Ein ani b'hu yicholim ladur. Hashem says, I can't stay with him. But by the Baal Taiva, it says, Hashoichin itam b'soichtum asam. Hashem dwells even with somebody who's tameh, if he's not a Baal Gaiva, if he's humble. So I followed the derech of Hashem. I'd rather be with somebody who struggles in Yiddishkeit, but he's humble, rather than somebody who's not struggling, maybe, and he's great, but he is a Baal Gaiva. And this ties in very well with the story that was a very, very interesting story when I said it, and it's a stunning story. It means it stuns us. Stunning, it stuns us. And it's brought down in the book from Art Scroll on Rebbetzin Kanievsky. I believe it's called A Mother to Us All. A Mother to Us All, I believe. And it says a story that there was a group of girls from Tel Aviv, Fry, not from Chiloni girls, who came as part of their tour. They stopped into Bnei Brak to daven with Rebbetzin Kanievsky. So here we had these girls from Bnei Brak in tank tops, in shorts, in the middle of Bnei Brak, Ir HaKodesh, and they went to the Letterman Shul to daven with Rebbetzin Kanievsky. Somehow that was part of their tour. After davening, Rebbetzin Kanievsky was walking them to her house, and she put her arm around this girl who was not dressed tzniustic, and she was bringing her into her house to give her a bracha and to shmooze with them, to be makarev. Came a kanoi. A kanoi sounds like a sharp person, sounds like a holy thing. He's not a kanoi, really. He's just a jerk. Real kanoim we don't have. And this guy, who's a frum person, started screaming at this girl who Rebbetzin Kanievsky is holding. Shiksa, you're dressing like a shiksa. What do you come here for? Go back to Tel Aviv. He used his gadlus, his Torah, to be mavayish a neshama barabim. V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha didn't apply to him, and he went ahead and embarrassed, was mevayish this girl. And it says that Rebbetzin Kanievsky, they were made on her. She only got upset twice in her life. Her children remember, and her family, and everybody said only 2 times in her life that she got upset. And this is one of them, where she lost herself to such a degree that she told him, first she said, this is what you think you're giving techacha, you're embarrassing somebody barabim, malbim pnei chaveri barabim, ein lechelek lo'elam haba, which means that she held that even though this girl is a chiloni, you're not allowed to embarrass her. She's b'chlal reyacha, v'haftal reyacha kamoicha. She's a human being. Malbim pnei chaveroi, she's considered chaveroi. And you went ahead, and this is what you call techacha, this is your business. Who asked you? And then she told him, I'm going to tell you something that I never told anybody. Everybody knows that everyone is welcome in my house. You could be Mechal Shabbos. You can come in without a sheitel, whatever it is. And it's true. She welcomed everybody into her house. She said, but you are not welcome in my house. Tzaddikim were able to tolerate everybody, but not a Bal Gaiva, and not somebody who was a mushchis in midos. You're struggling with Yiddishkeit. Fine. You're in the army, but you are struggling with some of the rules. Fine. But you don't work on yourself at all. You could be mevayish b'rabim, somebody. What kind of a person are you? How do you have midos? We have some people, they call our kids who are struggling, shiksa, goita. Chas v'shalom. Where do you get this from? You're off the derech. You are off the derech. Where do you get it from? Tell me one story. Tell me. The Satmar Rebbe said to do that? Because I know he didn't. The Chazon Ish said, Litvish, Hasidish, you tell me where. I want to hear the story. You should go out and you should be mevayish somebody and say shiksa gaita and be merachik them. Call them names. Show me. Because I have over, I think it's 5,000 already, in my book that's coming out, Chelik Aleph is about 1,000, of real stories of tzaddikim that consistently show us that you have to have midas, you have to be caring and kind and compassionate and not embarrass people. So how could you possibly think that that's the way to behave? So listen what he says. Full day. They learned full time. Morning say there was iyun, second say there was bekiyas, and okay, I don't know what they learned. Like, okay, so you're walking in and somebody walks in the carriage and the shopping cart before you, but really it's your turn, so you should say, it's okay, you can go before me. I mean, I don't know how long you can learn this, because we look at it as such a shallow thing. They worked on themselves. It wasn't a concept. It was a life transformation to transform themselves, to have midos, to have character traits that Hashem is proud of. To be v'halachta b'drachav, mahu rachum af'ata have rachum. That's why Hashem gave us those. And then we have people say, no, it's important for me to get angry at this guy, so he knows that he's not acceptable. Really? That's not what the Talmud Devarim says, who was a Rishon. It says he's supposed to be erech apayim. He's supposed to be noisei avoin. Hadbik b'midaisav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is what they were doing.